Alright everyone, so I gotten a lot of requests to do a bunch of YouTube videos about like assembly and how to like rebuild a motor and stuff. So as you can see, I've got all my parts laid out, and I really want to start making some YouTube videos pretty soon. And first we're gonna start building my customer Victor's 555 big block Chevy. It's a Dart big end block. It's pretty sweet, and it should be making around 700 horsepower by the time we're done with it. And we're gonna get it dynoed in a few weeks, so make sure to stay tuned. Thanks. Alright, so today I'm gonna be working on putting the crank in the 555 big block, and I'm gonna be double checking the tolerances of the main bearings with plastic gauge, just to make sure everything's okay, just to double check. But yeah. Alright, so the first step is you want to make sure everything's super clean. You don't want any dust or dirt or anything in there. This block is already pretty clean because it came from the machine shop, so everything's pretty much perfect, but we just want to wipe any like little dust out or whatever first. So you want to clean the journals and basically where the top part where the main cap goes on the block, and make sure that surface is clean. And then you want to clean the main caps, just like this. So, should be good. So once you've cleaned all those, you want to take the main bearing, and you can tell this one's the bottom one for the block, because it has the little hole for the oil to go through. So you just want to kind of line it up with the hole and just push it in just like that until it's flat. And you want to make sure you're either wearing gloves when you do it, or you just don't touch it with your fingers, because if you get your fingers on it, you'll leave fingerprints, and that's not good. So, and you also want to line up, you want to make sure that the little tang here lines up with the tang, because if you put it in backwards, it won't go in very well. Okay, so the next step is to put the crank in the motor, obviously. And in this build, we got this motor rebalanced because we bought new pistons for it, and we bored the cylinders out, so the pistons are heavier than the original ones. So we had to, since the pistons were heavier, we had to add some weight to the crank. So as you can see, there's our machine shop guy put some more weight into the crank. So, but yeah, it should run really good now, and we got it like jet washed and stuff, so it's really clean. But I actually just took a cloth with a brake clean just to get the journals really clean. It looks really good. You don't want any like grease or dirt or anything on the journals, because it'll cause like excessive wear and stuff, and won't be good for your motor. So the next step is to put it in. Just kind of line it up with the back and the front. Now you don't want to turn it yet because it's dry, there's no oil in it. You'll scratch up your bearings. So just don't touch it, just leave it right now. And then now you can grab your caps and set them on, but we're going to put some plastic gauge on the caps to measure the clearance between the bearings and the journal. So that's the next step. So plastic gauge is this little like plastic stuff. It comes in like a big strip like this, and so basically you put it on. Don't need a lot, just like this much. put it on just like that, and it basically, when you torque the cap down, it squishes it, and when it squishes it, you can measure on the package it comes in. You can measure like how thick it is basically. So yeah, you can basically determine if there's enough clearance for oil to get through there. So I'm gonna put a little bit of plastic gauge on that for each of the 5 journals. Okay, so we got all the plastic gauge on there. So as you can see, it doesn't need to be anything pretty, but just about that. You don't need a whole lot of it, just a little bit on each one. So the next step is to put caps on, just like this. Make sure you don't rotate the crankshaft when you're doing this, or basically throughout this whole process. And you want to make sure that the caps are sitting flush, not like that, because it won't torque down good. So just kind of want to make sure it's not hung up on anything. Okay, so the next step is to torque them down. You could get them like snug with a ratchet, but I'm just gonna get them tightened to like 40 foot-pounds right now. So we're gonna start there. So it's really important that you want to basically work inside out. So you want to start with these 2 bolts. Then you want to move to these 2, these 2, these 2, then these 2. And then you want to do the same process but with the outer bolts. So here, 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 and here. And you want to do that because if you start cranking them down here, basically the crank will like pop up kind of in the back, because there's a bunch of weight on this this part of the crank, and there's nothing on this. So you want to start in the middle so it basically tightens down evenly. And it's also really important that you don't like do one of these super tight. You want to go like back and forth, kind of like this. Do like a little bit of a turn there. Same with these. Tighten a little bit. one thing I like to do before I do the outer ones is I just like to double check them, make sure that they haven't loosened up or anything. So just go back over and tight, make sure it's tight. Now the same thing for the inner ones. Alright, so now that I got all the, just got all the main bolts to 40 foot-pounds, I'm just going to double check them, just in case if I forgot any. Pretty sure I got all of them, but it doesn't hurt to double check. Alright, so all those look good. So now I'm gonna up it to, let's do 60 foot-pounds. Alright, so I'm gonna set it at 60. So now I'm gonna do the same exact thing, just a little tighter. Alright, all of them look pretty good at 60. So now I'm gonna go to 100. And that's the final one for these dart bolts. So yeah, after I get it to 100, all these to 100, you can take them off and check the clearance. So just same thing. All right, got them all to 100 foot-pounds. And now I get to take the main caps off. Alright, so I'm going to pull this main cap off just to give you guys an example of what it might look like when you pull yours off. Just wiggle it. Alright, so if you come up close, you can see on the cap and on the journal, should look about like that. So now we're going to take it up to our little measuring thing. It comes with the plastic gauge, and looks like it's between 2000s, so looks pretty good. Hey guys, so I just checked all the clearances for the mains and rod bearings, and they all look really good. So I torqued down the mains and I set the thrust. So all that looks really good so far. And then I checked the clearance for the rod bearings, and everything's in tolerance, so that's really good. And after that, I worked on filing the rings, so all those are good now. And then next I'm gonna work on putting the rods on the pistons. All right, so these are the pistons, the rods, and the wrist pins I'm gonna be using. And along with the pistons, we're gonna be using these rings. You can tell that this is the first ring because it has a silver like line through it, and these are the second rings. It's just black on the side. These are the third rings we're gonna be using. These are the little support that you put under the piston on the lowest part like that, and on top of those go the third rings. And then here are the little locks that you put in here for the wrist pin, so it doesn't come out when you put the rod in. So yeah,